So now that we've gone over what RCView is, I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to log into the system and do a few housekeeping procedures. So I'm going to be using Chrome on Microsoft Windows here. I'm going to show Firefox for a little bit as well. I'd recommend using one of these two browsers. It will work in Internet Explorer and Safari if you're on a Mac. However, there may be a few features that don't work or work quite as well as on Chrome or Firefox. So I'd recommend having those two browsers just on standby. So right now I'm just going to go to rcview.redcross.org and it's going to ask to log in. So your login will be the same login that you use for Volunteer Connection. And if you're already logged into Volunteer Connection, it's using single sign-on, so you'll automatically sign into RCView. So I have my password saved here, so I'm just going to click sign in. And the first thing you'll see are these tiles here. Now my screen's a little zoomed in, so it may look a little bit different to you. You may actually have more or less tiles than I do, depending on what your position is in Volunteer Connection. So we're just going to be focusing on the mapping portal. We're not going to get into the DAT dispatch section here. But now that we're logged in, one thing I'd recommend is that you bookmark this page. And as we go through the course, it'll kind of make sense why I do this. We're going to go back to what I'll just call the RCView main page. And so the quick way to do that in Chrome here is if you go up to the top, the address bar where it says secure, I can just click and drag that down to my address bar. And now I have a little link here that I can click and always get back to the main page. I could edit that and make it a friendly name. I just want to make it RCView so I know that that's what that is. If you don't have a little address bar here, you can go to the three dots on the side and go to bookmarks and then do show bookmarks bar. So if you don't have it, show bookmark bar and then you'll have it. So in Firefox, going to do kind of the same thing here. When I log into RCView, again, I can go to the address bar. I could grab that little padlock there, bring it down, and I can make a bookmark. If you don't have the bookmark bar, if you go over to the side, there's a little star here and little menu option here. So if you click that, you go down to bookmark toolbar and then do view bookmark toolbar, and then you'll have the toolbar there. So I'd recommend before we get into anything else, making a bookmark. It is going to save you a lot of time as we go through the course. So if you go ahead and click on one of these tiles here, like we have the incident and DRO map, it'll bring up, you've probably seen this map before. Actually, if you get the daily disaster update, there's usually a little snapshot of this map in there that's showing kind of our Red Cross activity across the country inside of the map. So you probably used Google Maps or something like that before, so this interface probably seems pretty easy to you. You can zoom in and out. I'm just using the scroll wheel on my mouse here to zoom in. I also have the buttons on the side, zoom out. I can click on this number 4 here, that's a DRO level 4 event, and I can get a little pop-up with some information. I could even hold down my shift key and draw a box and zoom in to that region. So this is actually an example of a web app, and we'll get into the difference between web apps and web maps a little later as we go on through the course. But things to know about the apps are they have this kind of customized layout and look here. So I have some buttons on the side that I've added. Down at the bottom, there is a little legend that we can bring up. It'll tell us what each of the little icons mean. A layers list, so we can actually go through, turn on and off layers. If we want to, there's a little measurement tool on the top here, so I could actually go through and I could measure an area. So I could draw out this little area and I can see the square mileage. I could measure a linear distance. I can even measure a position. So I could click around and I get a GPS coordinate latitude and longitude for wherever that little marker is. So this is something that in the web app that the designer has kind of laid out here. I could click my little back button and get to the RC View main page. It works in this instance. It won't always work. So a good thing is always just use that little bookmark to get back to this main page here. This one here where it says My Maps, it says Central Florida region for me. But if you're in a different region, it'll be default for the region that you're in Volunteer Connection. So if I click on My Maps, it's actually going to bring up the Central Florida region for me, which is 10R28, so 10 for the division and the region 28. And there's actually some things that are already built in here. So as we go through the course, we'll actually use some of these pre-built options for us already. You can see that the layout of this is a little different than the DRO tracker that we were looking at earlier. That was what we called a web app, and you saw that it filled pretty much the entire screen. It had customized layout to where buttons were, somewhere on the side, somewhere on the bottom. This is a web map. So we can kind of distinguish that because we have this title bar at the top. It'll give us kind of this option of saving, sharing. That's something that we'll see a lot. The legend's always kind of built out to the side here. So web maps are where we're going to start building the maps. We could publish those as kind of these customized shiny apps, which we'll get into a little bit later. But that's just kind of a really quick introduction on getting into RC View. So stick around. The next video we'll actually start getting into Portal and start seeing some of the power of the system.